You guys voted before we jump into 319. We'll kind of watch a 319 related video, and maybe we'll see how different the things are. So this is from Morphologis. Big changes to Star Citizen ship insurance incoming.
Whether it's a giant reclaimer or a starter ship, losing your ship in today's version of Star Citizen really doesn't matter that much beyond losing some time at an ASOP terminal waiting for your insurance claim. What really matters today instead is what you were wearing and what cargo you might have had inside.
And what you were wearing is like easily replaceable most of the time unless it's subscriber items. And the cargo money really has no point in the game yet until there's sinks
Your ship. But that ship? No worries, you'll get it back in a second for no charge. But not for much longer, or so it would seem. You see, if you were one of the people who caught a little community-run Star Citizen event in Germany called Con 42 last weekend, you
a not-so-little community-run event.
might have heard about a big change coming very soon to ship components and ship insurance that's going to make losing a ship quite a bit more painful than it is today. And I'm going to tell you all about it in this video. And if you think I did a good job by the end and you think I deserve it, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button to show your support. So as a quick refresher for those of you who don't currently play Star Citizen or follow it closely enough to know, the way that Star Citizen works at present is that with ships that you purchase, you automatically
Did he put this at the Microtech bar?
get insurance for them, which replaces it on destruction. Reclaiming a destroyed ship is pretty easy. You just go to an ASOP terminal in a spaceport or space station and select the ship that you want to reclaim. You can either pay a fee to have it expedited, or you can wait to get it back for free. The time and fee scales with ship size, so a starter has hardly any wait time and a tiny
Claim times are crazy in 319. Yes. They're definitely testing some things, it looks like. So let's see. Yeah, here you go. This is the difference in claim timers from 318 to 319. Origin 890 jump from 54 minutes, I think, to 173. Aegis Hammerhead 17 to 56. So they've done this before, and the community lost their mind. I don't necessarily think it should be in minutes when you're so bad at your jobs currently. I don't want to say that. That's so not fair. But it's so frustrating that you just like want to lash out. I still died to the cutlass bug, the cutlass seat bug, right? The backlash was insane last time when they did this. These are pretty much the exact same timers, I believe, that they chose. And it was justified. And nothing has changed. Nothing has changed since the last time in terms of the playability. Well, actually, a lot has changed. The game has gotten worse and more buggy and have more issues, right? So, yeah. Yeah, new is red, orange is old. So, I think it really should be a monetary change, not really a time change, but this does have to come eventually. And if they're going to rip the Band-Aid off, they're going to rip the Band-Aid off, right? Key is at the top. It's the other way around. Guys, the claim times are not shorter in 318 and 319. It just whatever it is, it's backwards. The claim times are not shorter in 319. Maybe we can find it. Like a Titan is a 4-minute claim time. All right. Maybe orange is expedited. Could be. Even though the key appears to be at the top, I'm not sure. But yeah, like it's significantly worse. Okay. So, yeah. I don't know, but let's get back to the video. So
fee for expediting it to immediately get it back, whereas a big ship like a Reclaimer or 890 Jump requires up to 50 minutes for a free reclaim and a much larger fee to cut that time down considerably. The insurance covers the ship along with any components and weapons attached to it, but not anything that you had in your cargo or anything on your person. The insurance also takes into account any non-standard upgrades like better ship weapons or components so that you can get those back with the reclaim. The effect is that ships, especially smaller ones, don't really have very much value in and of themselves. The only pain a player really feels when they die is with what they were wearing or what they were carrying in their cargo. And this tends to make it so that player activities involving cargo or needing FPS gear like bunker running or jump town events require that person take on a lot more risk than other activities.
I don't agree with that. The cost of reloading your character is incredibly low. The ease at earning weapons is quite easy. Cargo, I sort of agree with. The FPS weapon idea and all these things, you know, if you lose a railgun maybe, and that's kind of a big deal because they're so hard to come by, but everything else is quite easy to find now and is pretty low risk. It really needs to come with, I think, a gold sync. Right now, we have no need for money in the game, and people's accounts are inflated with money because they just never really lose it, and they're always constantly gaining it. Money is being poured into the game. Inflation happens to insane degrees every single patch, and there's nothing that pulls it away. Until 3.19, but from different aspects, like certain missions and stuff.
Those less risky activities include things like PvE and PvP, so long as you're not wearing anything valuable.
Specific snipers are not easy to get, but they're not even in the meta. The P6LR is incredibly easy to get, so please don't come at me with that.
Because losing your ship will only cost you a few minutes or so. The result is that when pirates take on cargo runners or salvagers or miners, the person who takes on the most risk is in reality the person who's being attacked. Prison, sadly, isn't too much of a deterrent, especially if you bring down the local...
What game is Morph playing here? What is this?
Camera, which basically records crime, so if you kill someone with that down, it doesn't count. Which brings us to now the information that we got that I hinted to at the beginning of this video from an event in Germany called Con 42, which flew mostly under the radar. Attendance was actually really impressive, and no doubt it was due to the very high quality hosting and the amazing question and answer panel with three very big people over at CIG, the developers behind Star Citizen. They hosted Yogi Klatt, senior gameplay programmer, Dan Truffin, the assistant design director for the Persistent Universe, and Thorsten Lehmann, lead systems designer for CIG. These guys are the ones that are in the weeds doing the work and know the plan for Star Citizen, so when they talk about it, they have a lot of authority. They talked about Star Citizen's future and answered a lot of questions about things coming relatively soon, which is what really caught my attention, especially the questions surrounding the next patch 3.19 with the feature of being able to remove, replace, and loot items and components from ships.
Yes.
And that's what I wanted to focus on in this video. That's what prompted me to want to even make it. See, somebody asked if CIG had any plans to prevent component value inflation from occurring on account of them being able to be salvaged from NPC ships, as they'll now have a value in the universe.
But they can also be salvaged from your own ship.
The answer was quite interesting, as they went a bit beyond the question and explained further what they want to do with ship components, and that is to do exactly what they did with FPS equipment. That is to say, they want to remove some components completely from shop locations and make them only available through the loot pool through looting NPC ships and other player ships who have looted NPC ships.
It also sounded like they wanted to make some unique ones that were special in some way, but that could be a want, and that may not be in 3.19.
Dan Truffin also commented on top of this that their intention is to make some of the lootable items a great deal better than what you can find in stores, basically having a lot better attributes. Some other questions followed that weren't really that related, but eventually someone in the audience circled back to it and asked what some, including myself, were wondering after that answer. And that is, will we then be able to insure those looted rare items along with the ships as they are now? And the answer was no. The plan is to make it so that those rare items found in the world cannot be insured as they are now. So not only will you not be able to purchase them, but you'll have to be really careful about using them because you can lose them. And this is what will make a massive difference for giving ships value, most especially in those activities that don't involve carrying valuable things. Perhaps now you understand a bit better why I spent so much time in the beginning of this video explaining the current state of Star Citizen.
Yeah, it's a really big deal. They just have to do it well. So components are also in a place where they don't make an incredibly huge difference. A lot of them don't. Coolers don't at all. Quantum drives, weapons, and a little bit shields. Shields go down quite quickly, so it's not as big of a deal, I guess. But they have to adjust that at some point as well, and that's why 319 I don't think is going to be like this god tier patch of farming the best possible weapons off of a Ninetales hammerhead and all these other things, right? Where it's like this thing. It doesn't feel like it's going to be, but what is kind of cool so far is that the value that you're getting off of these ships are quite high. So a salvage wreck is worth spending some time at, I think. Like easily can make $500,000 at a big shipwreck, and in not a whole lot of time. So I think that's kind of cool. But in terms of components, I think we really need to wait for the flight changes that are currently in Squadron 42 and have zero timeline of when they're going to get to us to really, really, truly see the fruits of this labor, because then it will really kind of, we'll know what is good, what's not, what's available to you, what's not. They can go through and change all the components that are on NPC ships and all that stuff. And I don't think they're going to do that work until after this Squadron 42 garbage. So we'll have to see. I don't know if anyone's really looked at the shops yet and seen what's in there. Jumping back to the insurance real quick, I actually have like the live website that was pictured. And this is not the thing. This is also the insurance costs. So in 319, let's look at like lower value ships and say, okay, it's 225 in 318. In 319, quadruple the price, right? For a lot of them. Let's look at a ship that gets used quite regularly, maybe like let's see, a Misk Prospector, 5,000 credits in 319 for a ship claim, for an expedited claim. And in 318, 3,000. So, yeah, much higher. And then for claim times, this is orange is expedited time and red is non-expedited. So let's go to 318. 318 was 22 minutes expedited, 67 minutes on the 890 jump. Goes all the way up to 173 minutes. Let's again look at some lower stuff like the Cutlass Black. Let's go to 318 for the Cutlass Black. Where did it go? 2 minutes and 6 minutes in 318 up to, where did you go? Up here, 3.7 minutes and 11 minutes. So nothing too crazy there, but they are raising them. So just a note there. I'll link this as well to you guys. So let's continue the video though.
So let me explain then how this is going to change the game. On its surface, I'm sure many of you are looking at this with dread, as it's yet another pain you'll have to suffer through on a ship's explosion. After all, some of you may recall that there was once a time where components were not insured through ship insurance, which resulted in you losing components when you died. While in theory it was a good idea, it was hated by almost everyone, as ship-related bugs causing random explosions were a lot more prevalent.
Guys, that was 3.4, okay? That was 3.4. Like, the game we were playing then was nothing compared to what we play today.
Than they are today.
It was so much better.
I know that sounds crazy because they still happen, but trust me, it was worse. However, some important context you should know about that time is that ship components were not retrievable. Also, there were no physical cargo boxes, so really, all activities equally suffered under this system, with losing everything when you died. When a ship exploded, nothing was recoverable. Which is why everyone was happy when they changed it to just including any component that you attach to your ship. Basically, if you customize your ship, it will remember it and you would get that back with insurance.
Yeah, that obviously had problems of its own, right?
Things today, though, following 3.19 especially, will be very different than they were back then. Not only are random ship explosions less common, I know they still happen, but they're less common, but cargo can now be retrieved from ships that explode, including player gear, and soon components will be lootable and retrievable, which are very valuable. Hundreds of thousands of UEC can be looted from a ship just in components alone. Additionally, with this system, unlike before, you can now return to the site of your death and recover anything you lost, so long as you have time to get back there.
And so long it didn't fall through the planet.
On the flip side, though, it also means that there's more reward than ever for looting disabled and destroyed ships. This, under the current regime, will have the effect of creating an imbalance where attacking players have to put up very little to risk for a pretty substantial reward. Put simply, players who attack ships with valuable cargo or loot won't have to risk much of anything but their time. And this kind of already happens. If you notice, a lot of PvP players only wear the white suit that they get for free when they die, risking virtually nothing in the process. However, with this change of making components no longer insurable if they're really good, means that attacking players will now have to risk their expensive components worth hundreds of thousands of UEC in order to attack a player target with valuable loot. And the reason why this will affect PvP components no longer insurable if they're really good means that attacking players will now have to risk their expensive components worth hundreds of thousands of UEC in order to attack a player target with valuable loot. And the reason why this will affect PvP pilots more than PvE pilots is to do with the components and insurance. Here's what I'm
also, the current state of PvP is not very good either, right?
Talking about. We can be certain that the insurance will still cover the base level components that you get with a ship, as it would be unreasonable to expect a ship to come with an unflyable state. I mean, you don't get a car with an insurance claim without an engine, you get something that works. Thing is though, that while these base level components serve well enough in a fight against NPCs, they fall far short when putting them up against players where a few—
No way PvPers are using anything other than a stock loadout. So not true. If the components are actually good and actually give you an advantage, that, like, I don't think you understand how good that is. If the components are really good, but also can be lost, right? Do I need to explain how good that is? Let me explain it, because clearly it didn't come to your mind there. Currently, I agree with you, because I'm not sure how good the components are. If they do this, which it doesn't look like they're going to, we'll talk about that at the end of this video, because Morph made this video before 3.19 dropped, so he doesn't know basically what the plans were for 3.19. Or what the current 3.19 experience is. But if PvPers have something to fight over, which they currently don't, And ship weapons or ship components like, shields are way tougher. I don't want to say way tougher. Like, clearly give you an advantage, but it's not an extreme one or anything. Then, certain weapons, certain shields, certain power plants, whatever, right? You're going to have people going out there farming those things. You're going to have orgs farming those things for their PvPers, right? It's good. It would be so good for those groups. And then you start having like this player economy, right? Where people have to farm components and weapons and things from salvaged wrecks or whatever, and then give them to their their good PvPers to fight over other things that they need. But obviously, that doesn't look like Star Citizen, right? Like the current Star Citizen doesn't look like that. And it doesn't look like it's anywhere near the horizon. So in 319, 320, 321, because when 4.0 is probably never, it feels like at this point with the state of PES, the idea of and the conversations around those things haven't happened yet.
2 seconds of shields or extra damage points can decide a fight. That's why PvP players will look to fly with top-shelf components as much as they do now. The result in this system will be that PvP players will stand to lose a lot more in combat if they want to fly with meta gear and stand a chance.
See, what I think is PvP players are, if they want to have the best components, they can't just be PvP players anymore. They got to play the game now. They can't just log in, play an Arena Commander, or jump into the PTU and go to the same place every day and just, Port Olisar and kill noobs or whatever, right? Like, you might actually have to play a little bit, with the game's economy or whatever. Or you're going to have to interact with other non-PvP players, right?
Thus, with this new system, it will serve to rebalance activities across the board. Now, even if you fly naked, you're still going to be risking something with your ship. The result is going to be a far more cautious player base. Additionally, depending on how they work insurance, it will likely also mean fewer people ramming ships into things on purpose for an unfair advantage. It may also even mean fewer people leaving ships out when logging off, encouraging them to log out inside a bed or park it at a station to prevent it from being lost while they're offline. Or kind of like stripped of all its stuff, like a car put on cinder blocks and stripped of its wheels. And I suspect it will have more of an impact than even what I've said here, and I invite you to share what you're thinking down below. However, there are some problems and things that I'm not completely sure on, and that's with how insurance will work in specifics. I know that they're probably going to cover all of the base components that you get, but what I want to understand is what other things it might cover. What I'm hoping to see is that insurance will cover anything you buy in a shop, up to like, say, mid-range gear, but the really powerful stuff that you find in loot tables, like the top-tier meta stuff for PvP, will be the stuff that you can't insure. Ultimately, I think that things being completely uninsurable may be a little bit too hardcore for people, so I hope that they go somewhere in the middle where some simple stuff can be insured, but really good stuff will be lost, meaning that you're going to have to risk it if you want to win. But I concede that just even having mid-range gear be insurable might be too unbalanced still. But what do you guys think? Are you excited for this change, and do you agree? Do you see it as I do, as bringing balance to the risk that some activities have versus others? Or perhaps are you just worried that bugs will make the downsides outweigh the benefits for now?
I mean, I definitely think the bugs are going to outweigh benefits in a lot of ways. You're going to see a lot of people frustrated. I mean, if these claim timers stick, you're going to see a lot of people frustrated. And I don't know. I'm kind of at the point where, like, let's just rip the Band-Aid off and make this be our normal day. Essentially what this is in a lot of ways for players, I should say lawful players, is this is essentially what a prison sentence has been like for people for a really long time. When you like accidentally get a crime stat, I'm starting to think we should just rip the Band-Aid off. But I think that they should lean more towards higher cost claims rather than higher time claims. For now, the the lack of returning customized weapons, components, and things like that. It would be really nice if they took a really hard look at insurance and addressed what items you have on your ship and have it be an extreme cost if you have really good weapons. But I'm also in agreement with where Morph is if you can buy it in a shop, it should be able to be insured, but the higher level for me should cost more. And if you can't buy it in a shop, which should be the meta stuff, then it's uninsurable. That's where I'm at. But those items have to be metas, and they don't want meta components. So how are they going to do this, right? It goes completely against everything that they've said that they wanted to do with the game. And that's sort of where I'm at now, is what is a meta component in Star Citizen? What will it? They don't want it. So this system seems to counteract that system, and what are they going to do about it? So I don't know. It's interesting. In 319 currently, if you purchase a weapon, as far as we're aware, if you purchase a weapon, if you purchase a component, you get it. If you salvage a component, there was no database transfer. I am curious if you take a salvaged component, put it on your ship, put it in your inventory, take it back out, like if there's something different about it, if you can eventually get it to insure on your ship. But for now, what we can tell is if you've owned it and you've bought it, it comes back. If you haven't, which we don't quite know what components are in the shops and what components are out of the shops at the moment, that's going to take a little bit of time, I would guess, then it's not. So hard to say what the metas are, hard to say what they're going for. We still have a couple weeks of PTU, so let's see where things go from here. I think this is a welcome change. I think this will be a good change in the long term, but in the short term, it might be a little bit painful.